Hi everyone, welcome back to Stationeers. Okay, so we're going to pick up where we left off. If you've not already seen it, episode 1 was just setting up a little bit of a box. We've got some very basic power generation set up. We've got our arc furnace connected, which has produced us some iron, so we'll take that. And then inside we got our first 3 printers made. And we've also got an APC set up, which is kind of charging our batteries for us and putting us into a pretty good state. So, once you've got your printers, as a new player, you're probably going to want to start looking at some quality of life stuff, because long term, you're going to benefit from them. You're going to want a portable light. You're going to want a better drill. You're going to want to start looking at pipes, so you're going to need insulated pipes, and all of these things need steel. Now, we can't make steel in the arc furnace. That is only used to make the standard ingots. To make alloys, we're going to need a better furnace. So, I'm going to come over to motor leaf. I'm going to flick it on. And we're going to search for furnace. The arc furnace is the one that we've already got. It just runs on power. And then over here, we've got the normal furnace, which is what we're going to build today. So, we're going to get that started. And that's going to take about a minute, maybe 2, just to get that thing crafted. Now, what I want to do is I want to just tidy up a little bit. Usually, when I'm not being as careful as I am now with obviously talking you through things, I would just bring everything inside and I would just dump it on the floor, because that's just how I play. However, we're going to try and stay organized. So I'm going to go and take all this stuff back inside so that we've got a nice clean space in here. What we are going to want to keep though are the iron sheets. I'm going to keep that gold. But I'm going to take the battery charger and the battery, because I think it's probably worth us putting this up. So the battery charger, let's place this. Don't think it really matters. So we're just going to put it there for now. And that is connected to the input side of the APC, so it's not going to drain our base. And then with my wire cutters in my right hand and the cable in the left, we're going to splice that cable in. And then there's a little switch just there on the side. Obviously I've got it sideways, so it's at the top. But now I can just put a battery in there and that will just charge away. Now it'll be a little bit slow because the APC will take priority over the charger. But once this is filled, that'll be filled. The other option as well is we could swap these batteries out. So if I wanted to, I could do this. I'm probably not going to do that because that will shut off my printer. Whew, we did not interrupt it. That's good. But yeah, you can also swap batteries. So if this one was to get fully charged, or almost, we can just swap them out and then start charging the other one. So, you know, just play with your batteries. Try and get to a good state. Okay, there we go. We have the furnace. Now, this furnace, you can place it inside if you want to, but I'm not going to do that. We're going to set this furnace up outside, just because, well, we'll go through why in a second. So, if we right click, we can place the furnace and we get the hologram. Now, this is the correct orientation where you've got the arrow in the top, the arrow in the bottom. But a lot of people will tell you, rotate the furnace sideways so that it's easier to reach the input slot. And that's not bad advice. Like, that is something I would probably definitely do. So for now, what I'm going to do is I'm just going to put this furnace over here. It's just a bit out of the way. Do not want this too close to your base, because it is very plausible that this can blow up your base. If you're wondering how, then check out the video in the top right corner, and that will show you exactly what my wife did, where we almost lost our Europa base, all because she decided to put stuff in the furnace that she shouldn't have done. So, the furnace was crafted using the wrench and iron sheets, and then the welder and iron sheets. And this is how it looks in its completed state. So, you have the window at the front, which when you hover over it will tell you what's currently in there. At the moment there's nothing, so we're just getting the tooltip that says contents. At the bottom we have a lever, so you use this to open it, and this, if there's anything in the furnace, it will be ejected. We're going to leave that closed for now. We have an activate button, and what this does is it causes a small spark inside the furnace, which can be used to melt ice, or it can be used to combust if you've got two different gases that can combust in there. And then you've got the gauge, and this will show you your pressure, your temperature, your capacity, and your liquid volume. In all honesty, it's only really the top two that matter. You only ever really need to be concerned with pressure and temperature. On the left, you've got the input slot. On the right, you've got the output slot. On the top of the furnace, you've got the logic. Now, this is used to like read what's in the furnace, and you can also write commands to it. So if you wanted to, you could automate it and activate it remotely. But we're not going to get into that. On the back, you have a liquid output, you have a gas input, and you have a gas output. These are used if you wanted to set it up with gas, and you wanted to create like a fuel mix, or you were going to feed in a hot gas. The way the furnace works is that you need a certain temperature and a pressure to smelt an ingot. So if we go into our Stationpedia by pressing F1, and let's just search for iron. Click on iron ore, and then from here you'll want to go into the iron and then iron ingot. You can also get to this by going to the home page, search for ingots, and then scroll down to find the relevant ingot. So if we're looking at the iron ingot, we can see here that in the normal furnace, which we have, it requires a temperature of 800 Kelvin or 527 degrees C to 100 kilokelvin or that much. The pressure needs to be between 100 kilopascals and 100 megapascal. So basically, iron is relatively easy to smelt in this furnace. It's really easy to get to this temperature, really easy to get to this pressure. So this isn't difficult at all. So, one aspect of this furnace is that it doesn't require power. Okay, so my advice would be, as soon as you can get to this, start using it. Because this furnace that you've got over here is going to guzzle your power up like it's no one's business. Okay, this, to start with, if you've just started fresh, only needs ice to run. And I'm going to show you that now. So we're going to get our drill, and we need to find two pieces of ice. The first one is this blue ice, which is called Oxite. I'm going to put my mining belt in my slot so I can actually pick it up. And we're going to just gather a little bit of this. We don't need loads to begin with, just for the sake of this video, but what you would do is you'd collect as much as possible, kind of just store it in the meantime. We also need a pink ice, but in the meantime, I'm also just going to gather some more resources, because we're going to need the iron for what we're going to do next. So we're going to grab the gold as well, because gold is one of those ores that you can almost guarantee you can't find when you need it. And also I'll be able to show you how we can use the furnace to just pretty much smelt anything after you've gone for whatever you wanted to originally. So now I'm just looking for some pink ice. We could use nitrice, but we're not going to go down that route right now. Pink ice, where are you? Just going to grab this oxide as well. Oh dear. If it takes too long, I will cut. But I want to kind of show you that you're not going to find what you want immediately. You are going to have to search around a little bit. Doesn't help that it's nighttime. If this was daytime, we'd have probably found it by now. Oh, there we go. See, it didn't take too long. But yeah, this bright pink ice, this is volatile. So you want to grab this. Oh, let's grab that. Put it in there, just grab a little bit more. Okay, let's head back to base. Okay, so before we go any further on the furnace, I just want to give you a gentle warning. So, in this game, you can create fuel by mixing 2 parts volatile ice to 1 part oxide ice. If we search for oxide, you'll see that it contains 23 moles of oxygen and 3 moles of nitrogen. If we look for volatile, it contains 22 moles of volatile. This is what you combust with oxygen to create combustion. So the idea is that we will put ice into there. We'll create a spark which will melt the ice and will ignite it. And that will give us a hot temperature and a high pressure in there that we can use for smelting ores. Now I want to make steel. So we're going to need to get some coal. And I can see some just over yonder. Whoops, let me grab you and put you there. And we're going to try and grab quite a lot of coal. Hopefully there's more than 22 in this little vein. There we go. We got 52 in total. There's a bit more there, so you know what, we'll grab that as well. Because it can't hurt. Right, we're done for now. Okay, so the reason we want coal is because it's required in the recipe to make steel. So in your Stationpedia, search for steel, and we can find the ingot here. And in here, you will see that it uses, oh well, if we look at the right furnace, 75% iron to 25% carbon. So you want 3 lots of iron to every 1 coal. I mean, carbon isn't really coal, it's kind of hydrocarbon, but whatever. Carbon is coal, and iron is iron. So you want 3 iron to 1 coal. So basically, you want, if you're going to make it in a bulk, you want 3 stacks of iron to 1 stack of coal, which we've got here. So, in order to smelt steel, you can see that we need a minimum of 627 degrees C. And obviously the maximum is massive, so don't worry about that. And basically anywhere between 1 and 100 megapascal. So to use the furnace, we're going to put our ice in there. Now, disclaimer, you need to be very careful when handling ice because ice will melt in your hand. Just to show you, if I put it here, you can see that I'm losing the oxide. That is because the sun is melting what is in my hand. So what you either need to do, because, well actually I don't think this will work anywhere because it's above 6 degrees. Yes, no matter what I do with this, it's gonna melt in my hand. So one option is to wait till nighttime, or the other option is just be quick and split it. Because what you can do is you can click on your ice, and obviously I'm using Alt because I freed up my mouse, and you can split one. So this is going to be very wasteful, but just to kind of show you the point, I'm going to split multiple ices, and then as soon as I have 3, I'm going to put it in. So 5, 4, 3, and what might have happened is, oh, so we've got 3 in there. That's a shame. I didn't want 3, but it doesn't matter. We'll melt it anyway. So the volatile's in there. We're going to click the button. Okay, don't need to press it multiple times. I'm just doing that because I can. And you can see in there now we've got a little bit of pressure and we've got some temperature. It's not enough to actually do anything. That's 274 degrees Kelvin. That is pretty much like 0 degree, but it's getting a little bit warmer because the sun is shining on the furnace. Now what I want to do is I want to put some oxide in here. So I'm going to just split out a few oxide. chuck that in, and there you can see, so the pressure's gone up. The temperature's about the same. When you are combusting oxide and volatile, the temperature needs to be above 100 degrees Celsius in order for it to combust. Okay, so at the moment we've got a temperature of 270 degrees Kelvin. If you want to convert Kelvin to Celsius, you just take your Kelvin temperature and minus 273. It's actually 273.5, but 273 will do it. So if I had 300 and I minus 273, then I would have 27. It'd be 27 degrees. So at the moment in there, we've got about 4 degrees Celsius. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to press this button. And as you can see now, the temperature and the pressure have gone up quite drastically, which means we're ready to put in our ore. So I'm going to put my coal in. And if we look at the little thing at the front, we can see that it's processing our carbon. I'm now going to drag my iron in, and we can see it melting the iron. And we know that we need 3 parts iron, so I'm going to have to put all 3 stacks of iron in this furnace. So we've got to put 1 more in. There we go. Now, as again, like we said, the steel, as long as we're above 900K and above 1 megapascal, will produce steel. And you can see there, it's going to produce 200 grams of steel, because our temperature is above 900K and we've got more than 1 megapascal. You can also see about this button, it's green, meaning that whatever it has inside of it is ready to be produced. So you've got the ratio correct if that's green. If you put your ore in and it isn't green, you've probably got a problem. So I'm going to open the lever, and there's our steel. And the furnace still has temperature. It seems like a bit of a waste if we don't do anything with it. So I'm just going to show you something. If you have the lever open and you put some ore in, and then you put a different type of ore in, you can see there it's not going to create anything. Okay, my button is red. I've got my iron and copper in there. Can't do anything with it. It's not going to produce anything. If I open the lever, I get reagent. Okay, I can't use this right now. The only way that this would be usable would be if we create something called a centrifuge, and we're not at that yet. So that is wasted. I'm not even going to worry about it. But long story short, if you are smelting single ingots, leave your lever open, and then when you put your ingot in, as long as the furnace can process it, it will spit it out instantly. Okay, there's no risk of you creating a reagent in there. So I can try putting some gold in and see if that will also process that. Assuming that the temperature and pressure are okay, which it is, we're going to chuck the copper in. It looks like we're okay for that. If I chuck the iron in, we may not be hot enough. Oh no, we are. So there's our iron as well. Perfect. So just using a few pieces of ice, we've been able to produce multiple ingots without using any power. Okay. That is the furnace as basic as possible. And it is so easy to use. As long as you refer to your Stationpedia to see what pressure and temperature you need, then it should be pretty easy. Now, obviously, there's a slight issue here. The question is now, well, what happens if my pressure is too high, or what if it gets too cold? How do I remove that gas? Well, we spoke about the 2 connections on the back here. So let's very quickly set up something that's going to allow us to get the gas out of there. And I may already have some pipe. So we've got a pipe there. And we've got a... I don't want to use an active vent. That would be a waste of power. So let's go for... Okay, for now we'll go for a passive vent. And I'm going to just quickly go and make a valve as well. And we'll set something up very basic that will just allow you to vent out the printer. Sorry, the furnace. So I'm going to just put some of my ingots in here, including the steel, because we're going to need that later. I'll just put this gold and this copper in here. And in your pipe bender, you want to search for valve. Okay, just use iron and copper. Let's print one of those out. What I will say is what I'm about to show you is just one way of doing this. You don't have to do this. Other people have other ways of doing this. This is just my take on it. This also isn't the most efficient way of doing it, but as a new player, you're just going to want to get this working. So what I'm about to do here is the very basic way of emptying your furnace. You're also going to want a frame. So place the frame anywhere around the furnace. It doesn't really matter where, you just want it not too far. And weld in a single iron sheet. Right. Then from the input and the output, get them connected. So using some pipes, which you'll find in your lander, we're going to just connect them like this. And then we're going to bring it down as well. And we're going to connect this to a valve. And then we're going to connect it to a passive vent. So the passive vent goes there. And then the valve we're going to place here. But what I want to do is I want to scroll. And we want to do a one-way valve. Rotate it so that the arrow is coming in from the furnace and is going out to the passive vent. The one-way valve is basically what it says on the tin. It will allow gas to pass from one pipe to another in a single direction. I'm going to open the valve so that it's always going to be passing. And you can see now that that is emptying the furnace. Okay, the pressure of the furnace is being pushed outside. And if we look at the gauge at the front, we can see that the pressure is dropping. The temperature is also dropping, but that's not because of the valve. That is because the furnace is not insulated. So wherever you put the furnace, the ambient temperature affects it. So out here, because if we walk away from the furnace a little bit, you can see that we're negative 46.
Health low.
So that negative 46 is having an impact on the furnace. It's cooling it down. I'm just going to very quickly go and get some food and drink because I've got a few triangles in the top right hand corner. So you can see here we've got the hydration triangle. We've also got a mood triangle, but I'm not going to worry about this right now because we can't do anything about it. We've also got this little health triangle here. And down here you can see my health, so I'm at 72%. My advice is that if you start losing health, don't panic. Health is a resource. I'm just going to eat the cereal bar. You've got time. If you start losing health, you're not going to die until it hits 0. So if you really wanted to, just hold out. There's no negative to you waiting a little bit longer and kind of go into your health a little bit before you eat and drink. If anything, that will make your food and drink last longer. So just bear that in mind. Over here, we can now see that our furnace is pretty much low on pressure. What's going to happen is the furnace will not get any lower than 2 kilopascal. Because this valve will only allow gas to pass through it if the pressure on the output is less than the pressure on the input. There has to be more on this side than there is on this side. So once this gets down to 2, both are the same, and it will probably hold at 2. As the pressure drops, it also takes longer to drop. So it might be that once you get to this low pressure of like 5 kilopascal, you just shut your valve off because realistically, there's no point in waiting. And the temperature that's in there would melt our ice automatically. So if I was to get some ice out of here, we go for 1 oxide, and look, because it's nighttime, you can see now the ice isn't melting. So I'm going to put 1 of those in, and I'm going to put 2 of those. Oh, we've cooled the furnace down, so it's now below 100 degrees C again. But that's fine. That furnace is now ready for me to press that button at any point. And it will ignite again for me. I've got no ores, so I'm not going to do that right now. One other thing to mention. When you have mined ores using your drill, and you put them in the furnace, your ores will degas. And what I mean by that, so if we search for iron, and we go to the iron ore, the iron ore contains half a mole of carbon dioxide and 2 moles of pollutant. When you melt ore in a furnace, that gas is released into the furnace, which then causes the pressure to increase and the temperature will probably drop, which in turn will technically cause the pressure to drop, but we're not going to get into that too much. We're going to go through all the alloys at a later point. This was just solely a very basic setup of the furnace. So, in short, you have the furnace, which we printed from the autolathe. You have a pipe on the output and the input connected together, going into a one-way valve, which we printed from the pipe bender, going into a passive vent, which you had in your lander. But if you wanted to print another one, that is also done in the pipe bender. And you very simply put in your ices. So in our case, it's 2 volatile, 1 oxide. Press your button, and that will ignite your furnace ready to be used. That is it. And just remember, if you are smelting a single ingot, keep this open, because if you accidentally leave something in the furnace and then you put a different ore in, you're going to create a reagent, and that is a waste. You can't do anything with it. And that is a very basic setup of our furnace. There is another furnace. We're not going to go through that now, mainly because we haven't got the resources, and this is a tutorial playthrough. So we're going through every little thing together. And now we've got the furnace set up, we'll be able to use the alloys or ingots from this to increase our base structure, kind of make it larger, make it more interesting. The arc furnace, realistically, we aren't going to use now because we have that furnace. I'll still leave it plugged in as an emergency, but realistically, that'll probably just sit there gathering dust until the day when we take it down. But that's it. That is this tutorial. Nice and short, nice and snappy. Hopefully explains the furnace in a very nice, simple concept. There is more to it, and when we get onto other gases, we'll revisit the furnace and go through other ways that you can process your ores using just hot gas. You don't have to create a fuel mix in there. You don't have to combust anything. But that's a story for another day. So next time, I think what we're going to do is we're going to create an airlock. Because what it would be nice to do is have a bit of a room that we can kind of live in and breathe in and open our helmet in. But to do that, we're going to need a way to cut off the outside from the inside. So next time we'll build the airlock, and then from there, we'll start trying to make inside the base a little bit more habitable, one step at a time. So thank you for watching. I appreciate your time. Take care, and enjoy playing Stationeers. Bye.